just finding different reasons for us to continue to feud, and sort of the motivation behind our matches, that became harder and harder for the creative team to sort of come up with. But I mean, once you had us in the ring, like, there was no doubt that he and I had that chemistry, that we could go out there and entertain, and once the bell rang, keep everybody's attention and keep them motivated.
All right. Well, I was surprised that you two never really had a real rivalry when he was world champion, because I thought that was, like, written in stone. Daniels versus AJ, headlining main events as world title match. How come that never really went down the way it should have?
Well, there was a period of time right before Hulk Hogan and Eric Bischoff joined the company where they revisited me and Joe and AJ as a three-way match when AJ was world champion.
I remember that.
And actually, because of the promos that we cut, he and I, they changed their plans. Like, originally they were going to do someone else the month after with AJ, and they decided to give me that shot. But again, it was one of those things where I felt like it was almost like lame duck booking, because they knew that Hogan and Bischoff were coming in and things were going to change. So, it felt like they gave me that opportunity to wrestle that main event that December. But then once January came around, it was weird. I wrestled for the World Heavyweight title in December, and then in January, the pay-per-view, I was the second match in the show, and I lost to Sean Morley. And a lot of people were like, well, wait a minute, but what changed here? And basically the answer is TNA's mentality towards me. That's what changed. So,
well, okay, you mentioned different ways to get you and AJ together. I have to bring it up. I didn't even write it down because I didn't think about it at the time. Please explain to me the point of the Claire Lynch storyline. I have to know.
Okay. Well, the original idea, the first time that Frankie Kazarian and I sort of went to the company and we said, look, we'd like to be a tag team. Frankie and I, we were part of Fortune at that point, or we had been part of Fortune, and we saw that there wasn't a whole lot of, it didn't seem like they had a whole lot of plans for either one of us in a singles capacity. And at the same time, we saw that, the Motor City Machine Guns were out with injury. They had just split up Beer Money, and they didn't really have, that marquee tag team at that point. And so Frankie and I decided, if we put our mind to it, we could become that marquee tag team if they gave us that shot. So we went to TNA and offered that up, and they came back and said, we'll do it like this, and we'll involve you guys with AJ at some way. And so originally the plan was going to be, I was coercing Frankie into being my partner with some sort of secret, and the idea was going to be, the secret was going to be, like, their original idea was that Frankie had some sort of relationship with AJ's sister or AJ's cousin or something like that, and AJ's response was, why would I be mad at that? If he's my friend and my sister and he got together, why would I be upset at that? Why would I be mad at that? And so Frankie actually came up with the idea that AJ had a secret that he was protecting, that I was going to expose if Frankie didn't, do my bidding at that point. And so the three of us sort of sat down and came up with this idea that originally the idea was going to be that AJ had become the sponsor, so to speak, for one of Dixie's relatives, like a niece of Dixie. And so to protect the company from the scandal of this member of the Carter family using drugs and becoming a drug addict, Dixie and AJ had conspired to sort of keep this secret and try to get her healthy. And AJ, being, such a good guy, would be the sponsor for this person. And so the original idea was that this person was going to be a relative. This Claire Lynch character was going to be like a niece or someone that Dixie actually cared about, not just some friend, which we thought sort of diluted the whole point. It had to be someone that Dixie cared enough about that she would risk, her company, and AJ would risk, being found out by the world that he was helping this person out, like, undercover. And so the idea was going to be that we found out that the idea was we thought that AJ was having a relationship with Dixie, and then actually the relationship was the two of them conspiring to keep this all undercover. So then once we found that part out, the Claire Lynch character was supposed to have a child that was about 2 or 3 years old, because all of this was supposed to happen back when AJ and Frankie and myself were also friends. It wasn't supposed to have happened just then. So this was supposed to happen while we were part of Fortune. And so, this Claire Lynch character was going to have a child that was like 2 or 3 years old, and we were going to say that AJ was actually the father of that child, that while AJ was her sponsor and they were, keeping close ties together as they were getting her healthy, he took advantage of that and, they had a child. And so the end result was going to be us having Maury Povich come on the show and do a blood test with AJ and say, you are not the father of this child. And that was going to be the end result. But they changed it all up, and, they made it that, Claire was supposed to be pregnant right then and there. And, so it was just like the original idea to us. We thought it had some legs to it, and it had, that sort of that basis in reality that Eric really dug, Eric Bischoff and those guys. And then, just the changes in it that the creative team sort of made, we felt like that sort of diluted it down and made it a little less compelling. So that's what it is, man. Sometimes the ideas, after everybody has their say in it, it sort of changes from the original to what you get. So
yeah, the more appropriate thing, that would have actually been kind of epic and good for the company, oddly enough. That actually would have made more sense.
And one of the good things about that was like Jason Hervey, who is one of the executives in Bischoff Hervey Entertainment. He had ties with Maury Povich, and we had actually put feelers out for Maury to be part of the show. Back when we had originally set this idea up, Jason Hervey is one of the guys that was very instrumental in helping, Frankie and myself sort of do what we did on television, because he was always very cool about like letting us do what we wanted to do in the backstage vignettes and things like that. And he was very supportive of us when we were putting the Bad Influence thing together. And he was someone that Frankie and I sort of went to and were kicking these ideas around with, and he was very supportive. And he was always one of those guys, him and Eric, they were the ones that were always like, well, let the best idea sort of win the day. So they were very open to collaboration, and they would, whenever they wanted an opinion, they would listen to ours as well. And, sometimes our opinions went out, sometimes they didn't, but they listened to us. And that was one of working with those guys at that point, was just the idea that we could all sort of come together and pitch ideas and let the best one sort of win.
All right. Well, let's go back a little bit. And my wife Mandy, who's on the show all the time, she's a fan back in the day, and she really wanted to know, where did Curry Man come from? And what's the story behind Curry Man? Because she was really wanting to know.
Okay. The first time I went to Michinoku Pro, which was 1999, I went as myself. And so I did a short tour, maybe 10 days, as Christopher Daniels.
Right.
And the guys, the great Sasuke and Jensei Shinzaki, who was Hakushi back in the day, they were sort of the office. They were they ran the company. And so they liked my work, and they offered me an opportunity to come back the next tour, which was the Masked Man tour. Now, Michinoku Pro ran a Masked Man tour. It was basically a round-robin tournament with about 10 masked characters over their summer tour. It was a 40-day tour. And some of the characters were, guys like Great Sasuke and Tiger Mask and Grand Nanawa, who were established wrestlers already for Michinoku Pro. And then some of them were characters that they created solely for the Masked Man tournament. And the character that they gave me was created for the Masked Man tournament, and it was Curry Man. And it was based off of a cartoon character called Kinnikuman, which was basically, I guess, Muscle Buster. The Muscle Busters. That was a cartoon that they had over in Japan at the time. And there was a character called Curry Cook. And that was the idea. Like, the guy was, the mask of the character was based on this Curry Cook guy who had a plate of rice and curry on his head. And so that was the mask that I got. And of the people in the Masked Man tournament that year, one of the ones that got over the most was Curry Man. And so once that tournament was over, they continued to use the Curryman character, and I went back, over the course of the next year. I probably went back like 6 different tours as Curryman, and just built that character up, and then I went from Michinoku Pro to New Japan and did a couple years with New Japan as Curryman. And then a couple of years later, there was an opportunity to do something different in TNA, and I pitched the idea of being Curryman for TNA, and they jumped on board with that. And I did a year of Curryman in TNA.
Yeah, well, I remember that when Curryman debuted, and I'm like, what is this? But then you got lined up with Super Eric and Shark Boy and made the Prince Justice of Brotherhood. Where did that come from?
The Prince Justice Brotherhood was the creative team's idea of a joke against Abyss, because Abyss's first character before he was Abyss was Prince Justice. And so for some reason, they named the character after an inside joke that only 3 people would understand. And that's what they did. So,
wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, that. Wow.
And the funny thing was, they put us together, sort of as a joke, and then the group got to be, like the top selling T-shirt at the time, and we got over, and yet they would never put any emphasis on us. That we were still, opening match nonsense, despite the fact that we were super popular.
That's super funny. Actually, that's super funny. Weren't you in like some weird fish market match with the Dudley Boys?
Yes, we did the fish market street fight. And then the funny thing was, like, when they went to Bubba and Devon with that idea, like, Bubba and Devon's response was, okay, if they'll give us this, we'll make it entertaining. They thought it was, TNA thought, oh, this will just be a comedy match, ha, ha, ha. And Bubba and Devon, their mentality was, well, we'll take it and hit a home run with it. And so, we went out and did what we did, and I thought we made it super entertaining.
Yeah, people don't forget it, that's for sure. It's definitely not a match people forget. So, well, I'll go back. I have a question here and from Mark. Well, speaking of gimmick matches in TNA, because that's, of course, for you, outside of the fish market match that we just talked about, what was the strangest or stupidest gimmick match that they put you in over the years?
Probably the reverse battle royal, like the thing where we all fought on the floor to try to get into the ring over the top rope.
I hated that.
Like that sort of made. I guess in theory, like when you say it out loud, you're like, okay, but, I think that was one of those instances where you're trying too hard to be different. And so I was just like, whatever. But we did it. I mean, we did what we could with it.
Yeah, well, was that nearly as bad as the Terror Dome, which I still think is one of the dumbest cage matches ever?
Well, that was certainly more dangerous. I mean, that cage had no give, and it was hard to climb. And, I felt like the guys that were put in those matches, I thought we did a really good job with it. But it was like climbing that structure the way it was and trying to get up and out of that thing was, filled with danger.
Yeah. I got a quick question here now. Why did TNA shorten your name to Dick Daniels when he came back after Curryman? I never quite understood that.
I never understood it either. That was a Vince Russo call. His answer to me was, it was better for marketing.
What?
And I thought, yeah, I don't know. I didn't get it. I hated it. I hated it. But, I went with it as best I could. And I just thought it was rotten. But, I mean...
Wow. Okay. Well, you mentioned...
And the funny thing was, they started doing that, and no one... everybody that ever talked to me or introduced me or anything, they still just said Christopher Daniels. And I was like, I don't know why they're just calling me Daniels. It doesn't make any sense. It's not like it would have been different. I was trying to figure out, what example they were trying to have me follow. And I looked at guys like Goldberg or Batista, and I was like, well, those names they sort of stand out if you don't say the first name, but Daniels is just sort of, playing by itself. It could have been Jack Daniels or Charlie Daniels or Jeff Daniels or anybody.
Yeah.
But you know, you couldn't say that to them. Like they thought they knew better.
I almost think they would
whatever.
have better off just calling you the fallen angel and just drop your name if they're gonna go something simple like that, you know?
Well, yeah. Well, I told them too. Like there was a period of time after